Hello, everyone. It's good to see so many people being attracted by Bitspiration Festival to Krakow for the third time. And I think it's really a huge success for Polish ecosystem and the ecosystem in Central Eastern Europe. I want to share a few reflections on the ecosystem here, in Europe in general. Probably I won't be so enthusiastic as my previous speaker. I would be rather falling into the category of the morning's presentation of Keith. So let us start. We are an early stage fund based in Warsaw, but actually we did more investments in London with our partners of Springbird and now Techstars London than in Poland, because simply speaking, there is a better deal flow there, even despite the fact that we are investing usually small amounts of money. So the largest investment we made was $200,000 so far. So it's pre-seed in terms of the US money. We are raising a second fund, so I will talk about that later. Probably you know Showroom or Filmmaster or Manubia, if you are active and actively listening to the Polish scene. Showroom is the largest Polish independent fashion e-commerce. And actually I want to do a test, because the whole claim of my presentation is that our local ecosystem is very weak. So for 30 minutes or 25 now, there will be a code running, 10% off. Try to tweet, try to encourage people to buy, and during the Q&A we'll tell you how much revenue you generated. Imagine this is happening in Silicon Valley. So one of good funds having a good company in the portfolio asks the audience to tweet or buy during the presentation. So we observed it together with Piotr Vreeland during the launch conference when they tried to raise money for some companies. It happened real time. Last year, actually, when we showed the code for Bitspiration, the revenue was 0, so I hope it will be better this time. Another company which you can actually meet in the lobby is Intelligent Sleeping Mask, which won Le Web in December last year and then subsequently raised $500,000 on Kickstarter, being the second Polish company just after Zortrax to raise successfully on Kickstarter more than 100K. They raised $500,000. So what I'm going to tell you is the observation I've been making for several years now, is that basically the tech industry is becoming a show business. It melts with Hollywood, and there are even some people telling that we are in the Valleywood business. It's more about the celebrities, it's more about the conferences like this one. It's not so important to do the real business as to get the PR. So TechCrunch, apparently, for many people is more important than Wall Street Journal. Which in reality is not. Some people on Quora ask why, for instance, Instagram is cool, or Angry Birds is cool, and Microsoft is not cool. And the answer was, you know, General Electric is not cool, despite the fact that they make the revenue of Angry Birds in minutes. So we are not in the real business, let's face it. I think, Bartek, you once told that we have to prove to the real business that the tech industry is a real business. And we need numbers, and the numbers for this region are not satisfactory enough. Continuing with the analogy, I claim that tech conferences are more like movie festivals right now than anything. Have you heard anyone talking about the competitive advantage through pure tech here from the stage today? I haven't. So we are more like movie producers, so VCs, and there will be a slide about that, trying to build the success of our companies by building the PR and by attracting the audience, the fans. So even the language becomes the same. So actually, you have the festival in Venice put against the picture I took last year in the launch festival. The same queue to the venue, VIP entrance, celebrities. We got lucky with Don Dodge, who actually let us in through the VIP entrance. Startup teams are becoming like the movie crews. So they publish pictures, how they function, they go on TV. The question is, where are the real successes? So This is the one of the pictures from Polish television is the picture of some of the companies in my portfolio, and they were dubbed Polish Zuckerbergs. The picture was taken 3 years ago, and 3 years later, you can self-assess if they really became the Zuckerbergs or not. They're very successful, but far away from Facebook's IPO. So, as I told you, the investors, here you see the slide from DLD, where Atomico presents current portfolio. Atomico was based on the Skype success. On the right-hand side, you see Jerry Bruckheimer, for instance, producer of Bad Boys or Black Hawk Down, presenting his movies. So again, visually, very, very similar. In the language level, very, very similar. So in terms of Poland, in terms of talent, we are in the very similar situation. So we have great coders, we have great cinematographers. So if you look at the credit list of great movies, or if you look at the payroll of great tech companies, you will find Poles. So a friend of mine running IBM Venture Capital Group did the acquisition of Netizza some time ago, $2 billion acquisitions. 60 or 80 engineers, all R&D was done in Warsaw. No one knew that, even at IBM, when they started the acquisition. So on the right-hand side, you see Sławomir Idziak, famous Polish cinematographer, behind Harry Potter, King Arthur, or Black Hawk Down. But still, show me just one Polish movie which made it to the top 500 top grossing movies ever. Or, what we will actually see also, show me significant Polish exit from the tech industry, because HTL, which Tomasz mentioned, is not software, it's not ICT, it's medical stuff. So, of course, we can try to go to Silicon Valley. That's what Peter claims it might be an answer. But again, right now we are not very successful as a nation in doing so. This is a recent statistics published by Bloomberg. And apparently, Poland is number 94 in the places around the world, including all states in the US, which provide talent for Silicon Valley. So the metric says language you speak at home while being permanent resident in Silicon Valley. So if we look at the European ecosystem, many claim London is the number one. And I claim that this is also because they have close ties to Silicon Valley. And if you look at this chart, UK is ranked 34th. Actually, the number two is Texas. So Austin, with South by South, is a natural place to run the most successful tech and interactive festival, because basically the ties to Silicon Valley are so very strong. So, question is, what can we make to improve this? So, shall we all move to Silicon Valley, or shall we send our startups? Maybe, but still, my claim is that this is not the best place for doing the tech business, besides some lunatics, and I include myself to be one of them, because numbers don't cheat. Startup ecosystems. So if we don't want to move, we can try to recreate startup ecosystems, and people are trying to do Silicon something everywhere. So there is Silicon Alley, there is Silicon Roundabout, there is Silicon Alley in Berlin. In the times of the fast internet, it's easier to be tapped into the valley while being away, but still, if you are not there, you are not able to use the advantage of, for instance, abundant funding or people with expertise in being serial entrepreneurs, or people who have access to the latest technologies because they just work on them around the block. Poland is not on this map, so if you look at the maps published over last years, despite all the efforts of the ecosystem, we are not there. Berlin which, by the way, without support of Polish programmers, probably wouldn't be so successful, is the closest ecosystem which is mentioned on all maps. Maybe the reason for that is that we are still waiting for our first 1 billion exit. The question is it the quest for Holy Grail or not? Because given the kind of separation of the ecosystem, not including the startups, just look about how our government structures the funding for startups. KFK was the only mechanism in Europe which was separated from European Investment Fund. It happens again with the new fund by our BGK. So we are not able to generate 1 billion exit without having the bridges to the most advanced both tech and financial ecosystems. So all the efforts by everyone in the room are more than encouraged. I think Tomek made the bet several years ago about will we have or not significant exit in a few years. There is another fellow early stage fund, AIP, which claims our mission is to deliver a company with the exit on par with Google till 2020, as far as I remember. I'm afraid this is not possible. Let's meet in 6 years and see. We can try recreate Silicon Valley. So you have a Wawel castle just across the river. Would you go and dig for diamonds in Vistula River here? Who will try to dig for diamonds? No one, because there are no diamonds there. So why are we trying to build 1 billion tech companies where it's very, very difficult? Again, the numbers game. Lunatics. You know, we are crazy. Google promised to open Google campus in Warsaw as a third location besides London and Tel Aviv. They promised it last week, and Eric Schmidt did it. And just yesterday, he opened yet another location of this kind in Berlin. So it's not about looking for startups. It's lobbying game. Recall the recent ruling of the European Justice Court. So using entrepreneurship as a way to have a better relationships with European governments, this is the game, and this is the answer. Someone was surprised that Google announced Google Campus to be open in Warsaw. It's a lobbying game, simple as it is. Running the analogy with the movie industry, Łódź is Polish gravity center of Polish movie industry. And David Lynch once planned to open kind of Google campus for the movie industry there. For many reasons, it failed. But again, in the movie industry, for some reason, people were more realistic, and they were actually surprised that a famous US director tries to open such a center so far away from either Hollywood or New York. Numbers. So these are recent numbers summing up the first quarter of funding, both in the US as a whole and Silicon Valley. So the funding just in the first quarter of this year in the Bay Area was almost at $5 billion. In the whole US, almost 50% being invested in Silicon Valley. So if you look at the statistics of total VC investment in the CE region, which I believe was shown at the conference last week in Sofia, let's assume it was calculated over the last 5 years. The number shown was $200 to $300 million. This is amount invested within a week in Bay Area in the first quarter of this year. Numbers. So if you look at, for another hubs in the US, which might be closer to your time zone or might be closer to what you do, for instance, if you're in media or electronics, consider Boston, So New England amounts to 11% of USVC funding, 1 billion. New York, and I believe you have Titus Stetovsky from Setlo, a legal company based in New York, also almost 1 billion. Again, huge numbers. This is just one quarter. So these are actually the slides from the recent publication of Ernst & Young. You showed the 2012 version. This is recently published, 2014. And if you look at the global VC industry, there's no significant thing going on. Of course, question is what happened in the first quarter of this year. Was it fueled by both exits in the US or in Europe? And there were some significant exits mentioned earlier. But still, it's mostly static. There's nothing significant going on, nothing to be excited. And actually, if you would look back to the first bubble, the numbers were much higher. So the industry as a whole is not booming, it's not declining, it's just on steady course, nothing exciting. With the small difference that here in the region, we are operating on tiny, tiny numbers. Here, for 2013, US $33 billion versus Europe 7.4, which if you look at the percentage, globally, US accounted for almost 70% of global VC activity, and if we took the benchmark of 50% going to Silicon Valley, so Bay Area, Silicon Valley plus San Francisco, it means that 35% of global VC investment activity happens in the Bay Area. The question is, why are we sitting here, not there? In terms of the dry powder, so the funds remaining, again, North America, and please pay attention that Israel is part of North America in the statistics. Very interesting. 60% of dry powder versus 14 in Europe. In terms of the preference, Europe rather looks for easier businesses, consumer-facing. So in terms of number of deals or the total amount invested in Europe, consumer services, for instance, e-commerce, are the number one. In the US, this is ICT, software accounting for 80% of this category. So again, try to assess where to raise, depending on the vertical you're in. I would say my suspicion is, because it wasn't published as detail, that most of these rounds and this money goes to London, actually. Because even if you're based here, being onshore UK is a safest bet in terms of subsequent rounds you're going to raise. And this is the statistics I mentioned. So slide from the conference in Sofia last week. Interestingly enough, Italy accounts for Central Eastern Europe as well. I think someone mentioned that Germany accounts for Central Eastern Europe. And even with Italy and Greece, the number of total VC investments in this region is very, very low. You mentioned the acceleration revolution. For some reason, there is this gap, so it's easier to raise proper Series A. It's fairly easy, especially in Europe, especially in Poland, to raise up to 200,000 euros. It will be even much easier because if you paid attention, there was a call in Brussels closed, I believe, in April, with the budget of 150 million euros just for web accelerators. I was in Dublin at the conference a week ago, and the goal of Irish people is to have 30 accelerators, 30 vertical accelerators, over the next 3 years. I will have problems with naming 30 business verticals, if you will ask me. I don't know if I know so many verticals, and they want to have an accelerator for each vertical. So friends from 11 Accelerator published the statistics about European accelerators. Luckily, this time Warsaw made it to the map with our accelerator, but honestly, given the amount of easy funding for accelerators in Europe, I don't think that running in on private capital, and that's what we did, makes any sense. Therefore, I think the proper strategy, and this is actually countering your claim is to become much more risk averse and just look what will come out of the fog of war, so to speak, if you will. So what will come out of the accelerators, which are being funded with very easy EU money or government money in Europe. Also, I had this thought when I attended a classic motor show with one of our angel investments, so not tech. Who is excited about owning a Porsche? One person. Actually, my claim is that we are in this industry in order to have more free time and cool gadgets like these cars, classic or new ones. So I had this thought that basically being in the tech investment business sucks. Because if I would like to sell one of my assets publicly, and we had such a case in Poland with Ola Sitarska, and if I would announce it, for instance, on Allegro, which is a Polish eBay, I would have police and Polish financial regulator on my neck just very next second. That's not the case, for instance, with the collectible cars. And speaking about the movie analogy, on the left-hand side, this is original Porsche from Bad Boys movie produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. Nice toy. So second thing is that there are no government subsidies in, for instance, classic car business. And it makes it very pure. So again, the question is, are the grants and government/European money making any good, or on even the midterm to long term destroying the market? So just finishing, Andrew asked me to also include how to work with us. So as I said, we will not be doing pre-seed anymore. After the summer, hopefully Q3, maybe Q4, we'll finish raising our second fund and we'll focus on later stage deals. So if you're already having the traction, if you're proven with initial investors, and if you're looking either for around 1 million euros or around 2.5, please send us a deck. Don't send us a deck if you have just slides, and if you look for amount of 200,000 euros, which for some reason became a standard in Poland. And the reason is because that's the amount you can get from publicly funded sources. Remember when applying that VC math is tough, so just making the numbers easier. If you look at the VC fund with $100 million under management over the average 10 years lifespan, 20% will go to management fees and 80% will be invested. Applying the statistics published recently by Harvard about the survival rates, even in the US, 75% will not bring the capital back. 15% will just recover the investment, and 10% is of your invested money has to pay back the fund just before the managers of the fund will start to earn their carry, which is the holy grail for us being in that industry, which is the participation in the successful exit. So remember that we have to believe that you will pay back at least, actually 11 times. So that's where the famous 10x comes from. Remember it when applying. If you're not fitting that criteria, go for angel funding. Apply for the loan with Idea Bank. That's, again, a good source. Remember that the risk capital has to deliver certain math. How to pitch us? Have a product to show, up and running. Be focused only on this one. We don't want to see people running like 5 businesses, because we want to see founders focus on the one thing which we invest in. Show us revenue or customer traction. Have a simple deck as a start of the conversation. There was plenty of good examples, starting with pitching Huck's version. Try to get a referral from our portfolio. I don't believe in the automated assessment or automated answers. I'm overwhelmed with emails. But if, for instance, Michał from showroom will call me and tell me, there is a guy or there is a team, take a look, meet them, I will do it even without looking at the deck, because I know that showroom founders are good guys and they have good sense for good businesses. Get us excited, simply speaking. So try to understand what is our natural preference. And Occam's razor before contacting us, is it a business for us or is it a hobby for us? By telling that, I mean that there are many people actually looking for funding elsewhere, but coming for the expertise to us. And I'm asking the simple question, can we invest? Because then that's business for us. Or are we just talking as if it would be my hobby? Because my hobby right now is spending time with my daughter and waiting for a second kid to arrive in November. So I'm very, very selective. And just to end the presentation, I want to end with a quote from the St. Paul's letter to Romans. I'm believing Catholic, and I encourage you to read some of the letters by St. Paul's because they can help you in business. They helped me a lot. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love in honor-giving preference to one another. Be of the same mind toward one another. Don't set your mind on high things, but associate with the humble. Don't be wise in your opinion. If you think about that, this is actually a summing up of the ecosystem in San Francisco. Maciek is waving his hands, but he didn't notice that I started 5 minutes earlier, and I'm just in the 25th minute of my presentation, which perfectly times my Q&A.
It's fine. I would have intervened, so don't worry. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, we have...
Can you leave the slide with my email and Twitter? Thank you.
Yeah, if you could, otherwise you'll have to... His Twitter is Kowalczyk, Kowalczyk. You can actually find it if you follow at hashtag Bitspiration on Twitter, because I've seen many mentions to you. You'll see that whenever you come off stage. We don't have much time to take questions. I'm still going to take one. I see a hand over there.
And it's not my fault.
I'm not saying it's your fault.
It's but your fault.
I'm a Swiss clock, so I have to follow the rule, actually. But
you were supposed to do it earlier.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you.
Please state your name. Thank you.
I'm Kate. Hello.
Hi.
One of your investments is showroom. Could you elaborate more on that? How did they approach you? What were the encouragements for you to invest into this platform?
So basically, we knew each other from one of the startup weekends when they, as a team, were running totally different business, which failed. And then subsequently, they came up with another idea of this multi-branded independent fashion e-commerce store. And so we knew the team, we believed in the team because it was their third business together. They sold one of the previous businesses successfully. We believed in the sector because e-commerce is one of the growing sectors in Poland, which just recently many people noticed. So that were the main reasons, and basically there was a chemistry with the founders.
Okay, so it wasn't like a very, very unique idea that encouraged you to invest in it. It was that the knowing of the people and
there is an nitty-gritty. There is a nitty-gritty because if you look under the hood, they're very metrics-driven, and they have own IT solutions running that. So it was also a significant factor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Actually,
you.
Michał, can you shout the number? 0. I knew. This is the strength of this ecosystem. Sorry.
I really love your presentation for two reasons. First, thank you for mentioning Samir's talk last week in Sofia, at least because I'm an advisor, so obviously I'm very happy when you do that.
Give him best greetings.
But it was
and
a
ask him
cool
why Italy is in Central Eastern Europe.
Yeah, I know. I told him that, by the way. And the other thing I think it's that is a bit disruptive, destructive, not disruptive. Sorry, please mark my words. It's true that having this European money is interesting, but I don't think it always. I think it gets a disservice to the ecosystems a lot. It creates fake VCs. It creates. I mean, there's a lot of problems with that. But still, if you have 200,000, get 200,000, but try. Because as you've seen, his math was spot on, it's actually much harder than it looks, and that's why sometimes VCs are not your best friends. I mean, that's how it appears, but they are. They just have to make a living as well. And last questions, if we have. I still don't see anything. I'm right in front of you, actually. Sorry, I'm going to go here so people can actually see your email.
I'm staying till the end of tomorrow.
So you're staying until the end of tomorrow. So
more than
one more round of applause for Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.